Inside Hilltopper Athletics is brought to you by Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration. Here's your host, Lynn and Don.
Welcome to Inside Hilltopper Athletics. We're still in Evansville, which means this is a good day. This is actually Friday at noon, and our team is in there practicing. And of course, I've got Don with me again, and we're out here, and we're going to talk a little bit about our semifinal win over Black Hills last night. So, Don, thanks for joining us again, and hopefully you're as good as mood as I am.
Oh, absolutely. We're still in Evansville, and right now, for me, personal mailing address, Cloud 9, because that was a terrific basketball game yesterday. Incredible start for the Hilltoppers. Really came out, just nailed everything against a very, very good Black Hill State team. Talked about it in the post-game interview. The players said we knew they were a very good team. We knew they were going to come back and make a run at us. They did. We answered, and we're going to be playing again on Saturday.
Right, just the thought. And at the Division II level, it's such a grind because it starts with the regional play, and you're going out and you're playing consecutive days, one day off, then a regional championship game, then the turnaround is so quick.
Oh,
you know, again, we had an NCAA call on Friday. We're on a bus Sunday morning coming out here. And then when you come out here, it's 3 more games in 5 days or whatever it's going to amount to. So it's a grind, but boy, is it an experience, or such a pleasant experience that when you're winning, you're riding that high.
Yes.
And I'm on Cloud 9 as well.
Absolutely, and one thing to remember is what we're doing out here is, you know, we're chasing the national championship, but we're making memories for some really special young men.
Right, and that's, we always say, athletics, there's so many ups and downs, and I coached for a billion years, and some extreme highs and hopefully not too many lows, but a few lows. But it's when you get to this point and you get to experience what our team has experienced over the last 2 weeks, it makes it all worthwhile. That all of those occasional 6 a.m. practices and the running and the trapping and the pressing and all of that. And it's not easy because you're still going to class and trying to get degrees and all that. But to be able to endure, persevere, and finally reach this level, especially after last year's season was probably cut a little shorter than we wanted.
Oh, I think that's true, and of course, Coach Hallett and the players that mentioned that the early regional loss as motivation for this year, and they've actually built on that and really have put together just a stirring postseason run. I mean, this is something that is really going to be memorable. They'll be looking back on this 10 years, 20 years, and you know, boy, that was a really special time in our lives.
Well, let's revisit last night's game, and I'm going to start with the word that we've used frequently here, defense.
Yes, and I try to reference that in every post-game press conference because the knock from, not the knock, but the reputation from the outside is West Liberty scores 100 points, they must not be very good defensively.
Which is ridiculous. And they've taken it to another level. And you talk about a challenge. You're playing a Black Hills team, and we talked about it on previous broadcasts, but not only do they may have the most dominant low post scorer in the country, they have a couple kids that can just light it up from the 3-point range. So as a coach, when you're preparing to play a team like that, the wheels are turning like, what are we going to do? Do we double the low post? How do we rotate? How do we run these guys off of the line? And after 20 minutes of basketball yesterday, at that half, that may have been our best pure defensive half of the season.
Oh, absolutely. And we talked about the 2 high school teammates that were playing together, Joel Scott, the player of the year, and Matt Ragsdale, who came over to him as a transfer, was a 3-point shooter. Ragsdale's first 3-point shot, and we were talking about this earlier, and I'm sitting down there courtside. It was right in front of me, and incredible closeout. I think it might have been Christian Montague. Barely got that 3-pointer off, and it was nothing but net, and I thought, well, this guy's a shooter. We might be in trouble. But he never got another look.
Yeah, and it's the thing, it's almost like pick your poison, but we executed the game plan so well, I don't think we ever had to choose. that we didn't overreact. Scott is an unbelievable player. He got the ball deep several times, but our angles on defending him were about as precise as can be. So he had to finish over top, and he is so strong that if he gets his shoulder past you, you're done.
Yes.
There's no question you're done. We selectively doubled. We ran doubles late, and then we were ready to rotate if he was able to kick the ball out. And for that first 20 minutes, I don't know if we could have played any better on the defensive end of the court.
Well, and I would agree with you. Now let's talk about the second 20 minutes when things got interesting, and pick your coaching brain a little bit. What changed in the second half? And it didn't change right away. West Liberty still had an 18-point lead with 12 minutes to go, and then all of a sudden it was like they remembered, hey, Joel Scott's on our team.
Well, I think they remember Joel Scott's on their team, but that's what makes basketball interesting. Game plans that work in the first half get stressed and distorted when injuries and foul trouble happen. And we are not, we've said over the course of the season, since we started doing these podcasts, we're one of the more undersized teams in the country.
Yes.
And when you throw in foul trouble and then the injury to Bryce Butler, then it goes from being a challenge to guard maybe the best low post scorer in the country to almost impossible.
Yes.
And then that's what happens. And then throw in the psychological element. You're looking at the clock. You want to see those seconds tick off. You start clock watching a little. You play maybe a slightly more conservative.
Yes.
And then that just fuels the fire on the other end. So we kind of knew it was coming. Bryce went in and out several times with the injury.
Yes.
But we did enough to win in advance.
Right, and that was the thing. And we talked with Ben in the post game, and you mentioned your reference to fouls. We lost Ben Sarson with fouls. We lost Chas Hines with fouls. We lost Bryce Butler, who's a very good post defender, with a bloody nose that they couldn't get stopped. And so we asked Ben in the post game, were you worried at that point? And he said, well, we lost two or three of our bigger guys, and against the National Player of the Year, and I've got a freshman, Finn Woodward, who's defended the National Player of the Year. Yeah, I was worried, but he says I thought Finn did as good a job as you can do as a freshman put into that situation. Now, moving on from that, it got down to 6 points late. It was a 2-possession game. What were a couple of the plays that you saw as a coach that you thought were really game changers that might not have been that apparent on TV?
Well, the one, and we don't talk a lot about individuals because we stress that this is team basketball we play, but how many times has Malik McKinney come up big late? And we ran a few more set plays than we're probably normally accustomed to. We ran a couple isolations Coach Hallett used to try to get people on an island. And Malik, with that old man strength in the left hand, he figures out a way. And I think that driving layup late in the game was the one that kind of let us go, oh my God, did we need that one?
That was the one that was really sticking out to me. That came with 1:49 to go. They had it down to the 6-point margin. We had just missed. They had just missed. We had the rebound. We were coming back. Did a nice job running the clock down. Shot clock in the single digits. And Malik got that curl, and he's coming around the side. I think he's not going to get there. He's not going to get there. He got there.
And let's talk about another word, math. So we know that threes are a point more than a two.
Yes.
And when you're playing, you have the luxury of playing with the lead, which we did. You mentioned still up 18 with 12 minutes. This team has 2 or 3 guys that can just knock them down from deep. Do you want to play that game? Do you want to start running doubles at Scott? And then he kicks out and finds open shooters, and you're back into the math game. I'd rather give up the 2 than the 3. The only thing that kind of put a little damper on that enthusiasm is we fouled him on several one of those. Fortunately, though, as we struggled at the free throw line, he missed some too. So at the end of the day, It was just a really, really good effort against one of the most dangerous teams in the country, a team that was here last year, a team that is inside and outside, and we're playing for national championship.
Absolutely, and again, to emphasize the positive, we did overcome a lot of adversity, and Coach Hallett referenced that in the post game, and a lot of the players did too. But you look at it, the foul trouble we were in, the injury situation with Bryce, our worst foul shooting game of the season. We missed more free throws yesterday when we missed in the game all year, and we beat one of the best teams in the country, and we're playing for the national championship.
Correct, and that's the thing. I think the expectations are so high, and we have played so well that people's like, geez, what happened? Well, what happened is we were playing one of the best teams in the country.
Yes,
and we were in serious foul trouble, and one of our better players was out in and out of the game. So just, it's been an incredible experience so far for us, for the coaching staff, for the fans, for the players. We just want to do it one more time.
Absolutely.
One more time, and we'll have the most fun podcast of the year. So that's going to wrap up this segment of Inside Hilltopper Athletics. We're going to see if we can find other people to jump in with us. Don?
Well, go Toppers.
The Panhandle Difference.
Westbanco appreciates our more than 15-year relationship with Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration. They're a one-stop shop that handles all of our work, whether it's quick projects or whether it's a project that might involve multiple locations, multiple branch locations. We appreciate the relationship. Doesn't matter what we throw at them or how complex it is. They get it done quickly and they do a great job.
With Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and we're gonna save you.
Inside Hilltopper Athletics is brought to you by Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration. Here's your host, Lynn Allum.
Welcome back to Inside Hilltopper Athletics. As promised, I said we'd have a special guest, and we have a very special guest. Commissioner of the Mountain East Conference, Reed Amos. Reed, thanks for joining us and spending some time with us.
It is absolutely my pleasure up here in the upper concourse at Ford Center. What an exciting time it is for us to be here. As the MEC continues to see its institutions have success, and the third time Mountain East teams in the men's basketball national championship, and we're thrilled to see West Liberty's success.
Well, we're thrilled to see West Liberty's success even more than you are, but thank you for the kind words and acknowledging that. So, first of all, tell us a little bit about your on the road again strategy here this week.
Well, I think it's a very important part of what we do as a conference to when our teams across our sports are having success in the postseason, to be out there as a support arm for our programs. And I've been very fortunate to be on hand at all but one national championship that our teams have won over the years. The University of Charleston's won 2 men's soccer national championships. Glendale State last year, their run in Birmingham to a women's basketball national championship. Due to my responsibilities with football, I missed Wheeling's national championship in 2015 down in Florida. But it's not just about the national championship games, it's about at the regionals. And I was on the road and went back and forth between the women's regional at Glenville and the men's at IUP. I just think it's important to be present and be there during what's an extremely important time for the student athletes and the coaches and the institutions when their teams have the opportunity to participate in the postseason. So let's see, this week just crossed the 2,300 mile marker, went back and forth, went straight to St. Joe's. No good flight routes to get you there and then be able to get back and forth here to Evansville. So Jonathan Griffin from my staff and I drove 12 and a half hours straight to St. Joseph's, saw Glenville play, then drove the 6.5 hours here and drove back to St. Joe's to watch Glenville in the national semis, and then back here to see West Liberty's semifinal win over Blackville State yesterday. Worth every mile of it to be here, to see our institutions having success when they're having it is just something from our standpoint we can't replace. We operate the regular seasons on behalf of our institutions, but then when the postseason comes, that's the period of time when the conference office can root for its teams, and when they advance to this stage, it's a thrill for us to hopefully have some small role in supporting the successes of our institutions.
You know, you could have been to the beach
Yes.
as
Yeah,
much as
yeah.
you've been driving here, but no, I know our staff, our players, our coaches, we greatly appreciate the conference presence. And I don't know if you heard, but when the seconds were dwindling last night, the Hilltopper faithful started chanting MEC, MEC, just like they did at IUP last week.
The idea that we have built that kind of feeling about our conference among the 23 Division II conferences in the country, I take great pride in the fact that I feel that our 12 institutions take great pride in being Mountain East Conference members. Fighting for the Commissioner's Cup every year is very important, and position in the Commissioner's Cup, not just winning it, is important and a priority for institutions. So the fact that they feel value in that brand and being a part of the MEC, which I think is on display at our basketball tournament every year at West Banco Arena in Wheeling, is really something special for me to be a part of.
Let's talk very briefly about the corporate support that you've received with the tournament being at West Banco and what that experience has been like for the teams and the office.
It's been tremendous. Quite frankly, the easiest way for me to put it is that we operate annually as a conference on less than $1 million a year. I jokingly said the other day that when I'd heard about the settlement on what it was going to cost Texas and Oklahoma to leave the Big 12 and go to the SEC, $100 million price tag with that they negotiated out just so they could depart and go to the SEC. I turned to one of my staff members and I said, that would fund our conference office for a century. If that doesn't put into perspective the differences between the Power Five and what we do in Division II, but I absolutely believe that we provide an experience for our student athletes that's a tremendous one, despite those differences. And so we can't do what we do on behalf of our student athletes, not just in basketball, but in all 23 of our sports, if we don't have support from corporate partners like we have in Wheeling, led by the health plan as our title sponsor of our basketball tournament. And they've become a corporate partner of the league as well. To put on an event like we do at West Banco Arena doesn't come without cost. And so without that sponsorship, we would not be able to be profitable in operating that event. And there would be things that we are able to do at that event that we wouldn't be able to do if we didn't have that corporate support. And it could ultimately lead us down a road where we're having a conference tournament like many other Division II conferences do at home sites and traveling here to there and having games that feel like regular season games as opposed to a special event that celebrates the conference and the teams within it. And that corporate sponsorship that helps us be profitable at the basketball tournament supports a better experience for our student athletes in all 21 of our other sports. So having those partnerships with the local organizing committee in Wheeling has been absolutely crucial in making our basketball tournament a tremendous success, and it goes far beyond just the tournament itself in supporting the Mountain East Conference and our nearly 5,000 student athletes across our 12 schools.
Well, one place, speaking as a former basketball coach, that I think it really helps when we have events like at West Banco, I do believe it prepares our team for regional play and then potential national championship play.
I do too.
Because you're not in the confines of a gym you're really familiar with, and it just adds to that experience. It gives you that big game feel. So when you qualify for the regionals, you're not walking in there and some of your less experienced players have those giant eyes going, what's going on here?
Well, you as an AD makes you a part of our Committee of Athletics Administrators, and we talk about in meetings consistently about the experience that we want to provide student athletes in not only our basketball championship, but in all 23 of our sports. And we have adopted as a philosophy that we don't replicate the regionals, but we try and create a conference experience that will well prepare student athletes for what they'll see when they get their NCAA opportunities. And I think the basketball tournament is probably the best example of that. The experience that student athletes have and the importance that there is tied to winning a Mountain East Conference basketball tournament, I think prepares them extraordinarily well for when they make it to regional play and to a venue like this to play on a national championship stage. I think that we're doing the right things collectively among our 12 colleges and universities and our conference office to prepare our student athletes to have successes on stages like this.
Well, one thing that I think we all can agree on is in the 10 years of existence, is it 10 years?
Yes, this is year 10.
Year 10, we have become a force to be reckoned with. We have a national brand going on right now, and it's not just in a couple of sports. We've had success across the board, and I think that starts first and foremost, and I'm going to pay you a compliment here, what you've done branding our conference, giving it a classy feel, making sure everything's organized out. It really lets us, and now I'm speaking as an administrator and athletic director, I just worry about the game itself. I don't have to worry about 1,000 other things. And that's what I told you. I went up to you in that MEC tournament and said, this is great because I only have to worry about my team.
That's how we want it at our conference events. It truly is. And when they get to an NCAA stage, we hope that they feel strongly supported by the Mountain East Conference and the brand that we've built. We're proud to say that our institutions, before we formed the Mountain East Conference in 2013, had been in Division II for nearly 20 years, almost all of them, and had only reached one national championship game. It was in women's soccer, and it was a contest that was lost. And in the 10 years, and there's so much credit to go around, we had a group of schools come together with similar budgets, similar goals, similar capacities to compete, and the similar philosophies piece consistently shows up in our boardrooms when our athletic administrators meet and when our presidents meet. And so we have this collective mentality in this league that we all need each other in order to be able to succeed on the larger stages. And as I mentioned earlier, we've seen it in Notre Dame wrestling. We've seen it with 2 national championships that they've won, with Charleston, with men's soccer. And we've seen it with Wheeling and women's volleyball. Glenville stayed in its run last year, and they get back to the semifinals this year. We hope that we're doing all the right things, as many as we possibly can with the small staff that we have. We operate with 4 people. I've got an outstanding staff, including Allie DeWitt and Jonathan Griffin and Chris Thomas. And our goals every time that we're tackling these things that you're talking about is to provide support to our institutions to give them the best opportunities to succeed that we possibly can. So when we see our institutions having successes like West Liberty's having this week, we take great pride in it too.
Right. Well, we take pride in it, and it's been a great ride to this point. We've got one more W to go out and get. Can't thank you enough for making the extended trips back and forth to get here. So I'm putting the pressure on you. Lead us to victory tomorrow.
I always like to say at our office we have very little to do with the wins and losses, but we sure like to see our institutions having success. And again, we love the fact that this time of year we get to root for our schools. So go West Liberty tomorrow.
All right. Well, that wraps up this edition Inside Hilltopper Athletics. Joined with Don Clegg again tomorrow, giving a preview for the Nova Southeastern game.